Well, let's get more now. We can speak to Hisham Mehana, who is a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Gaza. He joins us from Deir al-Balah, which is halfway between the cities of Khan Yunis and Gaza City. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, Hisham. We're being told that the ICRC is ready to act as a neutral humanitarian intermediary to help bring Israeli hostages home, also facilitate the release of Palestinian detainees being held by Israel. What role do you envisage? How do you do that?
Hello, Tom, thank you for having me. Our role is basically a neutral humanitarian intermediary. We have practiced this role many times throughout our work in Israel and the occupied territories since 1967. And only during this conflict, twice, during the first and the second ceasefire, the entire world watched our work, our dedication. We have always, since day one, reiterated our call for the full unconditional release of all the hostages in a dignified manner. Now, there's ongoing negotiations. We don't take part in any negotiations. Once parties to the conflict realize an agreement, announce it, provide all the necessary guarantees, we stand more than ready to start facilitating the implementation of this agreement according to the humanitarian principles. So hopefully we will witness and hear about such good news that is awaited by millions in the region, and especially for the families of the hostages, for the families also of the Palestinian detainees in Gaza and the West Bank, and for the plus 2 million people in Gaza who are waiting for this this horrifying daily routine to just come to an end.
So clearly an extremely complex role for the ICRC to play, and one as you say, you've already played before. Do you envisage this happening gradually over a period of days, or would you imagine that those 20, we think, living hostages be released all at once? How do you see this happening?
I don't have the information yet. Hopefully it will happen, and what we care about is that, first of all, it happens anytime soon, and it happens in a dignified manner. We stand more than ready to start immediately. We are ready to start now. We're just waiting for this agreement to be announced. And hopefully this time it will also include ending this war once and for all, because the level of suffering we have witnessed over the past 2 years, and tomorrow marks the second mark of this conflict, it has to come to an end once and for all.
What's your hunch? How far off are we from the beginning of the release of the hostages? Could it happen this week?
If it happens this week, we will be happy. If it happens tomorrow, we will be happier, because we believe that this is the key for ending this nightmare. We want to reunite families together. We want to bring the hostages, both dead and alive, back to their families, to be reunited with and to be buried in a dignified manner. The same thing we want for the Palestinian detainees, who we haven't been able to visit since October 23. We haven't been able to visit them and to assess their conditions of detention and bring family news to their families. We also would like to witness family reunification, but also what's even more importantly is to consider the fact that there is urgent need for immediate aid to enter Gaza, to enter unimpededly and to be in a sustainable fashion, with safety and security for our teams to bring it for those who are in need. We managed to bring in aid today into Gaza City after less than 1 week of temporarily suspending work from Gaza City office because of the intensification of the military operations. Like life-saving medical supplies, equipment, and personnel were moved from southern Gaza into Gaza City after many days. The fighting is still ongoing. There are still civilians who are being killed and injured on a daily basis, and this should come to an end anytime soon.
Right. I mean, obviously, to facilitate the hostage release, the bombing has to stop. President Trump has ordered that the bombing stop, but that hasn't happened, has it?
Unfortunately, we can still hear sounds of explosions, and we still hear news of killing, of civilians being killed, and this forced displacement is still ongoing. So technically, nothing has changed. But what I can assure you that everyone in Gaza now is hopeful to hear about this news, including the ICRC team, including the ICRC family of their staff and everyone. And I'm sure that also this is a very much anticipated news by the families of the hostages.
Have you got any information as to how many hostages we're talking about here? Because we're told there are 20 living hostages, 28 deceased. Is that the same tally you have?
I cannot confirm such information because we have an ongoing bilateral dialogue with parties to the conflict, with both Israel and Hamas at the top ICRC level, and in Tel Aviv, and Cairo, and Geneva, and Qatar, and other countries, because we want to maintain this engagement directly with both Israel and Hamas, with the mediators and the countries who have the influence and effort. This is the same that we have been doing for almost 2 years now, and hopefully this would come with a positive outcome.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about the humanitarian situation across Gaza. As you were saying a moment ago, you had to suspend operations in Gaza City last week. Just tell us how much of a presence you have elsewhere in the Gaza Strip and what your main focuses of activity are.
The last time I was in Gaza City was last week. A few days before, we had to temporarily suspend operations from our office there. And what we could hear day and night is massive explosions that could shake our building. And these detonations or these explosions took place kilometers away from our office. And the dust the gunpowder would cover the area, that sometimes we had to wear masks. So I cannot possibly imagine how that would be for the civilians in the surrounding of these explosions and this fighting. Civilians we have been speaking to and talking to, including medical staff who are working from hospitals that are striving to continue saving lives, for civilians who are displaced in shelter and camps that we are trying to support. They cannot move. They cannot move because they cannot afford the transportation costs, and because they don't have any shelter in southern Gaza. Southern Gaza is also catastrophic because the majority of the population are concentrated in a very ever-shrinking space without the bare minimum access to essential services. No clean water, sewage are covering all the streets and sidewalks where people are actually displaced, and they have even no shelter items. They don't have tents. We're approaching another winter. And so far, there has been no preparation of winterization. There's no new tents. There's no even heavy clothes for the vulnerable, including the children. And people are still recovering from an acute food crisis, given the ease of restrictions that we have witnessed in the last few weeks and months. Our field hospital in Rafah, which is the only fully operational field hospital in that area, continues to deal with casualties that pour in from there. So in total and in general, Gaza, the situation in Gaza has not changed. It continues to be dire, continues to be bloody, unfortunately, and there's still hope that must be taken in consideration for all the decision makers.
I mean, in terms of, you paint a bleak picture about the food and water security situation for the average person in Gaza today. I mean, what sort of a percentage of what they need are they actually getting when it comes to nutrition and hydration?
Has been never enough. And this is the main challenge that we have been facing, besides the direct security threats to our teams and premises. It's that it's never enough. As long as there's hostilities, as long as there's destruction, as long as there's forced displacement, there will be more needs to meet. And given there is these still ongoing restrictions on the entry of aid, if we take out the period of the ceasefire, which witnessed an intensification of the entry of humanitarian aid, it was never enough to meet the needs of over 2 million people living in constant displacement without the proper, safe access to essential services. So people cannot cope to live like this. It's not as they were destined to live like this. They are entitled to live with dignity. They are entitled to receive humanitarian aid safely and with dignity under the international humanitarian law.
Israel and officials in Israel tell us often on this channel that all the reports about famine in Gaza are, to all intents and purposes, fake news. What do you say to that?
The ICRC is not an organization that is experienced in a declaration of famine, but the IPC report that came out recently just less than a month ago, must have been treated seriously and should pave the way forward towards ending this crisis. There is a food crisis in Gaza. There are people who are struggling with acute malnutrition. We have received patients in our own field hospital in Rafah that have shown syndrome of such, including a pregnant woman, including newborns and children. It cannot be just denied. And whatever that entered Gaza in terms of food was never enough. It's not about the quantity only. It's about the safe access to what gets inside. It's about to deliver this for all who are desperate for it in the north, in the south, and the middle.
We're told that 67,000 Palestinians have been killed during these last 24 months. I don't know if you have another number, but what's certain is that people in Gaza have been living surrounded by explosions, destruction, hunger, disease, attending funerals, probably on a very regular basis. How psychologically damaged would you say the 2.2 million people of Gaza actually are right now?
I cannot describe it. No one can describe it. It will take many, many years to recover from the scars that are left by this conflict, because people have lost their loved ones. Parents have lost their children. Children have had to bury their own parents in the backyard of their homes or on the streets. This is something that you can never heal from and never forget. People have went missing, and their families until now don't know their whereabouts. It's an open cut wound until they can be reunited together, if they are still alive and lucky, or if they can receive the human remains of them and provide the proper dignified burial so that they can mourn. There is no recovery from this. Absolutely, there is no winner from this horrifying conflict. And back to your question about the numbers of those who have been killed, I think it's intolerable. I think it's unacceptable. And it doesn't matter how many people get killed every day, as much as it's important to stop this from continue happening in the future. This is why we have been calling for a ceasefire. This is why we have been calling for ending this fight, and to realize, only political efforts are proven to be effective in ending this. The political solution only, not the humanitarian situation, not the military situation.
Okay, just lastly, Hisham, and briefly, if you don't mind. I mean, President Trump says he's optimistic that, there will be results from the diplomatic efforts that are being made. Does it feel like to people in Gaza that there is now a ray of light at the end of the tunnel?
Everyone is hopeful. I can assure you that even those patients and casualties at the hospitals, or the remains of the hospitals that are continue to partially function, even these families whose loved ones are either held captive or in detention, they are still hopeful that they will have their own loved ones between their arms anytime soon, or get the remains of their remains of their loved ones to bury them properly in a dignified manner. Everyone is hopeful, despite the pain, despite the agony, despite the suffering. And this hope must be respected and must be turned into a reality anytime soon.
Hisham Mehanna, spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Deir al-Balah in Gaza. Thank you very much indeed for your time.